Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Personal Side of Business Rock Your Week call. My name is Josephine Hannon, but you can call me Jose. I'm the founder of Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other. Say it with me now. Online, offline, all the time. And when I say all the time, I really mean when you're in business, it really is all the time, right? Our personal affects our professional affects our personal. And it's also really interesting to look at not only how personal affects us, but also how we are in relationship to other people when they're in personal mode. And what's that line between personal versus being personable? Right? So those are all very important things to think about today. And that's exactly the focus of today's call, which is going to be really looking at the personal side of business. So what I want you to do, if you haven't already, is to go ahead and click the link for your Rock Your Week planner. Every single week, you want to be filling out your Rock Your Week planner. And we do have a 12-week challenge going on where the goal is to be on these calls for 12 weeks in a row. See, I'll do this. Boom, 12-week challenge. Boom, boom, boom. So that you can get in the habit of success and really take control of being strategic about your week as opposed to it taking over you. And when you're on these calls, it really turns into a best practice where every single week you are strategizing, you're seeing what's most important, you're learning the best tips to really propel yourself forward during the week. And it takes about 12 weeks to go from just being like, oh, it's a good idea, to be strategic, to really making it a default habit, right? Where you actually feel weird if you don't strategically plan your week. And that's where we want to be. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. You want to get to the point that it feels icky, like, yeah, I need to brush my teeth, or, my breath is bad, right? And it gets you in that habit of constantly brushing your teeth. And it's the same thing with these calls. We want you to get in the really the feel of it's icky if I'm not strategically planning my week, because it's going to sneak up on me, and I'm just not going to have my act together or be as focused as I could be if I had strategically planned it. So if you are like, I am in it to win it and really get in this 12-week habit of success, then go ahead and write, I'm in it to win it for 12 weeks. I just see somebody said, hi, Jose, I think this is my 6th week in a row. So woot woot, good job. You are halfway there. And I would love to hear how it's going for you. Do you feel like you're more in control of your weeks now? And you're also being a role model to other people, because whether we realize it or not, oh, somebody just said, I'm in it to win it. I love it. Whether we realize it or not, we are always role models to the world. The question is, what are we role modeling? People don't do what we say, people do what we do. Right? And if they see that we're on these calls and we're being strategic about our week, they're more likely to be strategic about their week. And that means they'll get more done. And, women entrepreneurs and our male allies will be able to make a bigger impact on this planet because we are more strategic and more focused. Okay. So it's a really big deal that you are role modeling this. So great job, everybody who's in it to win it. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the personal side of business. So make sure you have your Rock Your Week action plan open. And if you are a new member, this is how the Rock Your Week action plan looks. So let me just show you that for a second. Here we go. Okay. Let me do this. Okay. So you're going to want to you're going to want to put the date and your name and your business and your email so that you get an automatic copy of this. And the theme for this week is the personal side of business. Okay. Personal side of business. I love this. I love these titles. Very fun. All right. And somebody just wrote, love setting the weekly goals. When I take just 5 minutes to declare what I'm committed to, just the act of doing it makes it more likely to happen. Exactly. The more we say it, the more we see it, the more we can be it and do it. So very, very true. All right. So I'm going to bring it back to me. And now what we're going to do is we're really going to explore what it means to be on the personal side of business. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, literally, what does the personal side of business mean to you? You know, and feel free to even share that in the comments. What does the personal side of business mean to you? I know for some of us, personal is about being personable to other people, or being there for other people, or seeing like you're somebody that other people can turn to and count on. The other thing I want you to consider is the personal side of business could actually be about you personally as well, right? And how you see yourself personally in relationship to the business task that you're doing, or even sharing yourself with people in a personal way. That also could be part of your business brand. Okay, so I want you to just take a minute and really write that down for yourself. What does the personal side of business mean to you? The next part of this is really looking at the pros and cons of sharing the personal side of you. And I want you to start with the pros. You know, for me, it's something that I've thought a lot about, you know, and it's how personal is too personal as well, right? So we're all at different levels as personal brands. Some of us are very, you know, we're private and we only want to share if we're selling health and wellness products. We only want to share about the products and the services, but we want nothing to do with sharing about our own weight loss, let's say. But on the flip side of that, you know, the personal and the vulnerable can make you a lot more relatable to people, right? A pro of getting personal with your own brand is that people see you as more than just a figurehead or somebody just trying to make money from promoting something, but they see you as somebody who's actually walking the talk and able to relate to their pain points too. Right. So one pro of being more personal is that, one, it could give you a really great story, right, that your potential clients can relate to. But there's also, you know, there's also cons, right? There's also cons of being personal. So I want you to take a minute and think about, you know, what are the cons of bringing more personal into your brand, or being more transparent with people. You know, it's really interesting that I feel like my life directly parallels these calls a lot of times. Like the perfect theme usually goes with where I'm exactly at the moment. And actually this morning, I've been going through the in vitro fertilization process, and me and my husband are very committed to getting pregnant. Have been for a long time. This is my 6th round of in vitro fertilization. And, you know, and sharing that is something that I've kind of fluctuated with over the years. Because on the one hand, I felt, especially coming out of the corporate world, that when women share too much of their personal lives, it seems like we're going to quit at any time, we're unstable, you know, you can't count on us. And it could really hurt your career, right? But then I started thinking to myself, one, I'm not in the corporate world. Two, as an entrepreneur, I could actually be the culture I want to see in the world. And, what I do want to see in the world is women being able to proudly talk about what's going on for them and not feel like they always have to be dinged because they have a personal life that could affect their work life, right? And, putting that message out there so I could be supported, have more women feel like there's a safe space to be supported and share themselves, right? So that's my perspective on it. But sometimes, not everybody feels the same way about being personal or how personal you want to be or how transparent you want to be about what's going on for you, right? You could be, there is, as Avni just said, she said there's a fine line between being vulnerable and oversharing, right? And is it even appropriate? You could just say, I'm busy this morning. You don't have to say that I had an IVF egg retrieval. You don't have to, right? You can be as general or as specific as you want to be, right? But part of this call is really thinking about if you could have it any way in the world, right? Because you can. And as an entrepreneur, you can create the culture of the world that you want to see, right? So, if you can have it anyway, how transparent would you want to be? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's what you want to see in the world. And this call is your opportunity to really check in with yourself and be like, well, how transparent do I want to be? How much of my story do I want to share? How vulnerable do I want to get? Where is that line, right? So somebody just wrote, my personal side of business on social media, at least, is mostly about sharing the process of being creative. I primarily do this on Instagram stories and not really anywhere else. So a con is definitely if people aren't on Instagram, they aren't going to see that side of me. Instagram is where I share much more personally, and it's usually pretty fun and lighthearted, but I've also shared struggles too. Yeah, and I think Avni's raising a really important point too, is that different social media platforms have a different feel to them, right? You look at LinkedIn compared to Facebook, for example. And, on Facebook, a lot of times people are a lot more open and they share more personal things. And on LinkedIn, you definitely can get more of that corporate, just get to the point, be very serious and professional and traditional feel, right? So that's another thing to really think about is also what platform you're on, and is it also appropriate to that platform and to your audience, right? Because you want to think about your audience and how they're going to receive it as well. So if you are talking to people who are very traditional and conservative and they're not used to being in a economy where people are sharing and vulnerable, and they see this as you're weak because you are sharing, or that puts them at disease, then maybe that's not a great thing to do for that audience. So that's another thing to think about, is not only the social media platform, but also who is your audience. So really think about that. Is it a pro or con to be sharing things that are personal with your audience? I see Avni said my Facebook and Instagram audiences are quite different, and a one-on-one coffee with someone can be much more revealing than a social media post. Absolutely. And it depends on who you share with at a one-on-one, because sometimes you share with somebody at a one-on-one and their ability to spread that message to a lot more people is even more powerful than a social media post. So just because it's one-on-one doesn't mean it's not going everywhere. So yes, so it's things to think about. The next thing I want you to think about is, how does your personal and your professional affect each other? And what's working and not working about that? So this is more, I want you to look at this more in the world of tasks and productivity. So a lot of times we can easily end up on one side of the spectrum or the other. It's very common. We could be a 24/7 workaholic, and we're going and we're going and we're going, and we're not taking enough time for us or our personal, or we're not being there as much as we can for our family or our friends because we're so in work mode, right? Or on the flip side of it, we can totally prioritize our personal stuff, and then sometimes our important work stuff gets left at the wayside. And so what I want you to do is just kind of take a minute and really look at not how you want it to be, but like in reality, what's really going on for you right now, right? Are you finding that one is negatively affecting the other, your personal or your professional? Do you find that, they're complementing each other just right? What is that? It was kind of, it's interesting. I was talking to some women entrepreneurs the other day, and they were telling me that they're so in work mode all the time, and they only do things that are very businessy, that they actually don't have a lot of friends. Like, usually if they're out, they're just doing things at the level of, business or people that could promote them, but they have these very superficial relationships in the world because they don't share a lot of their personal, or they're afraid it's going to come back to them in some way, and they don't build deeper relationships. And so that always being in business mode 24/7 is hurting them personally. And I'm not saying that's from my opinion, it's from asking them about it, and they're saying that actually they wish that they had deeper relationships where they could talk to people more and have friendships like they used to when they were in high school, so that's the other thing to think about is, when are you going to be in business mode? When are you going to be in personal mode? And, also looking at relationships, who are people that you want to build closer relationships with, and that would take getting to know them better and maybe intentionally sharing more with them. And our PHB community intentionally is a very safe space to build deeper relationships quicker. But the key is you have to take us up on it, right? The key is you have to actually follow up with people and build those relationships and ask people to be part of your dream team of promotion partners, so that you can have those deeper relationships. And it's not just, each other at the level of, people's headshot on their business card, or you just see them, every twice a month or something, and you never really get to know them past their 30-second commercial. So I really challenge everybody to see, how can you even take it a little deeper this year with people? And it doesn't have to be everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you are missing out on what's possible for relating to other people if you just keep it at a certain level and don't be a little bit vulnerable. So that you can build those relationships in a deeper way. Okay. So what I want you to do, so going back to personal and professional, I want you to just take a minute and write percentage wise. What percentage of your time, like you look at your week, and let's just say, okay, so everybody works a different amount of hours. So I want you to pick the amount of hours that you work during a week, okay? And I want you to be intentional and write what percentage of those hours are you going to spend on personal versus professional. Okay, and I'm just catching up with the comments. So as you're writing down the percentage of personal versus professional during your week, I'm going to read a new comment, which is, I think it can get hairy when you get personally close with people you are also doing business with, because friendships can sometimes cause a sense of obligation. I don't know if anybody has felt that way. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's important, right? It's important to figure out who you're comfortable building those deeper relationships with and who you just want to be friends with. And I'm going to throw this out there is not everybody that you meet in PHB or at a networking event has to automatically go on your list of people that are clients or potential clients. You know, you really can meet people that can be your friends and you can hang out with them and you can get to know them. You know, sometimes we're in such big business mode and trying to get everybody to be our clients that we miss out on people that could just be really good friends. And I've seen people do this a lot at business events, actually, where if in 2 minutes you don't strike the person as somebody that they could get to buy their stuff, they just walk away or they dismiss you. And it's a shame, you know. So what I would say is, you know, maybe be looking at people in a new way, right? Not everyone's going to be your client, but that doesn't mean that you can't also have people that are other things to you that you meet at events that just seem interesting, right? All right, cool. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to looking at how you react to other people's personal. And it's really, you know, it's an interesting place to look from. The other day, I'll tell you this quick story. It will just stay between us. But the other day, my husband was having a concert. And he's on stage from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. And during that time, I had to do an IVF injection. And I needed his help because it was a pretty big needle and I was pretty bruised up on my stomach. And I literally had to do it at 9:15 to the minute. Otherwise, it could have totally affected my egg retrieval time. And so I was so afraid that because I was so bruised up that I wasn't going to be able to do it fast enough or it would take me too long to get it right. And so I needed Scott's help. So he had to tell one of the band leaders that he has to jump off stage, potentially in the middle of the concert, to go help his wife on this thing that, you know, like his band leader had no idea about. And so anyway, it worked out. Scott was able to help me do my injection. We got it the first time. He actually came off stage exactly at intermission. I don't know how that worked out, but it did. And he gave me the injection and then he went back on stage and it was perfect. But anyway, at the end of the concert, the band leader comes up to me and he was like, oh, so yeah, did you do that shot thing that you were supposed to do? And I was like, yes, you know, it was a little bit stressful, and I'm talking and he had totally like tuned out. Like he was like, okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that it all worked out. Good for you. I hope you come to the next concert. And so he really wasn't in this space that he wanted to hear about, you know, me doing the shot in the middle of the concert. He just, you know, it was just something he kind of checked off his list as, okay, I probably should pretend to be personable and ask this question, but I don't really want to hear the whole answer. Right. And maybe that's not what he was thinking. Right. Maybe he had a really good intention. I always assume the best about people. You know, maybe his intention was he genuinely wanted to make sure I was taken care of. But the way that it came across was he wanted nothing to do with my personal. He just wanted to ask me and move on right before he even heard my answer. Because maybe injections during the concert made him uncomfortable, which I get. And, you know, that's something we want to look at though, right? Because sometimes our uncomfortableness with other people's personal directly affects their likelihood of continuing to want to be with us, right? And we might be thinking to ourselves, well, that's not fair because, really, if I'm a great copywriter, you should want to work with me just because I can help you write in a way that sells. It doesn't matter if, I care about your cat or your kids. But the reality is that does matter to a lot of people, that you not only are great at helping them write something, but you're also great about being with them. And that's a differentiator, because the minute that somebody else comes up that can help them write in a way that sells, they'll probably be jumping to that other person just because they don't really like how you make them feel, right? And so I think it's such an important thing to really think about how you are with people at a personal level, or when they want to be personal with you. How are you? If somebody brings up personal things going on in their life, are you really quick to be like, okay, let's move it along. Come on, let's go. We got to get to the point of this. We only have so much time today. Let's be really task focused. Or are you, in some way honoring them or making them feel heard, even if you want to still get to the point? So it's something to really look at. Or on the flip side, right? On the flip side, sometimes we could be overly personable. And when we're so personable, if we're with somebody who's more of a task person and we are just a total relationship, I want to tell you my whole life story, then they're going to get bored and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's never going to actually help me with my business. She can't get down to business. I don't want anything to do with her, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is not everybody is the same, right? So you want to look at how you're being with different types of personalities. And I want you to just take a moment and ask yourself, like, do you see yourself more on the task side of things or more on the relationship side of things, where, you're like, get it done, get it done, get it done. I don't have time for your stories and your drama. Or are you more on the relationship side? I'm here from you. I want to hear everything about you, even if we never get anything done. I just want to be a space for you to tell me your story, okay? And it's important to notice where we are on that spectrum, because what turns on some people turns off other people. I'm going to say that again. It's so important. What turns on some people, the very same thing that turns on some people, turns off other people. And that's why we also want to be able to note how we are on the personal spectrum, so that we can adjust accordingly and start to feel into how people want us to be or what they respond to, and not just by default just do what we always do, because that can also hurt us in business. So I see a comment. It says, it's really interesting how this impacts small business owners way more than brands that choose to stay hidden behind a brand identity. It seems like brands can focus more on creating products and don't have to worry about being likable on an individual level. Absolutely. That's very true. We do have to think about this. We do have to think about how we play into our own brands, right? And especially if you're somebody who's not only selling a product, but if you are also a service provider, that's even more true, right? Because you are part of what's being delivered. That's where you have to be very intentional. Your personality does directly affect people's ability to receive and get results from what you're doing, especially if you're in the service world. So it is very important to be able to look at how you are personally. Yeah, that's a very good point. And so great. And then the last thing I just want you to look at is as a role model. So now you've been thinking about this, you've been thinking about the personal, and you've been thinking about how it affects the business side of things, how it affects you and your productivity, how it affects you and your relationships, how it affects you and your receptiveness to other people's personal stuff, right? And I want you to just take a minute and say, go ahead and write down, as a role model to the world, what do you see as the relationship between being personal and the business side of things? Like, what do you want to role model? Do you want to role model transparency and vulnerability and sharing stories that show you can relate? Or are you thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, maybe I've been coming across as way too relationship focused and I'm turning off people and I need to get down to business more, so more serious business people will take me serious? Or, maybe you've been oversharing, maybe you've been undersharing. Maybe you're realizing that, you're not developing as great of friendships in the world or in our PHP community because you're on this level of acting like everybody is only deserving of hearing your 1-minute commercial, and you don't really get to those deeper levels, right, of talking with people. So I want you to just take a minute and write down what do you want to role model in the world. And I definitely want to, personally, on a personal level, I definitely want a role model that you can share. You can share yourself and not get dinged for it, unless you decide to ding yourself. I've read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. If you haven't read it, it's phenomenal. Definitely get it on your reading list. And one thing that she talks about in this book is how many women who even think that they could have a baby in the future end up sacrificing their careers in the short run because, a manager might come to them and say, hey, do you want to do this project? Or, hey, you might have to move to do this thing. And if they see that they could have kids in the future, right away, a lot of women take themselves out of the game. They won't even take the promotion, or they won't get on that new project. Even if it doesn't affect them at that moment, just knowing that it could affect them in the future takes them out of the game. And so for me personally, I want to show that I'm in the game and I'm going to take things as they come up. And just because me and Scott are playing to be pregnant does not mean that I'm taking myself out of the game or I'm going to ding myself in any way for that. So that's my message to the world. Because I do agree with Sheryl Sandberg on that I feel like a lot of women prematurely take themselves out of the game, and that hurts them in the long run. So, all right, cool. So now what we're going to do is, it is 3:35. And so I'm going to let you have most of the rest of this time to really finish your Rock Your Week planner. The only other two things that I want to talk about today are, one, making sure that you set your 3 wins for the week, right? You can't get more than you focus on. And so you want to pick what are those 3 biggest things that you want to focus on this week. Feel free to share them in the comments, or even just share the one biggest thing that you want to really get done, because the more you share, the more we know it, the more you're accountable for it, the more you can go for it, right? And then the other thing is the acceleration tool for this week. Love to give you a productivity tip. Every year we identify the top 52 productivity tips for the year. And you always want to try them before you toss them. You're not who you were 10 years ago. You're not who you were even a year ago. You are evolving as a person. So is your business. So different things work at different times. And so you want to try these because even if one makes a little difference in your productivity, little things over time add up to big results. Say it with me, little things over time add up to big results, right? And so definitely take these productivity tips really seriously, figure out what works for you in your industry, and be a thought leader on how to be more productive. Yet another way to be a role model in the world. All right, so the productivity tip for this week is to do one less thing. Yep, I said that. I really did. Do one less thing. And what I want you to do is look at your task list this week and see what you can delegate or delete or delay. You want to delegate what must be done but isn't the best use of your time. You want to delete things that are just busy work or just a distraction but aren't really moving you forward the fastest in your business. And you want to delay anything that doesn't really have to be done this week, that strategically is not of uttermost importance, so that you can really focus on what will move you forward the fastest and you're not just reacting to other people, right? So how often do you actually get told as a productivity tip to do one less thing? Only at PHB. But really, doing one less thing can make all the difference, right? So figure out what that one less thing is and clear up some time to do one more thing that counts. With that said, we're going to wrap up this call with member announcements. So if there's any places that you want to tell us about in terms of you having an event, or your promotion partners having an event, or a special launch that you're doing, or an open house, or a really cool networking event to go to, or you just want to hang out with people, do more one-on-ones, or you have a request, even a request to the community, like, I really want to know of more groups that have these types of people in them, or I really want to meet a really great business coach, or whatever you need, go ahead and post it, share it. And then also always be looking for ways to support the community as well. So be reading the comments and seeing, what events are going on, who can you support more, who can you surprise and share their awesomeness. Every Friday we have our favorite Entrepreneur Friday. So make sure that that's also an opportunity to not just promote your business, but promote each other, right? And be intentional about what other people are promoting, because PHB is not just about you. It's also about thinking bigger than your business, putting the brightest spotlight on women entrepreneurs and our male allies, which means we have to be able to step outside of ourselves and pay attention and get to know each other on a deeper level as well. And speaking of really awesome events that are coming up, we have on Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, we have our 4th Wednesday luncheon. Our theme for this month is Speak with Power. You're definitely going to want to be there if you want to be the best speaker you've ever been, get on more stages, compare best practices, be more remembered and repeated. This is definitely a roundtable to be at. Plus, you get to connect with our awesome community of some of the most supportive, driven, and trailblazing entrepreneurs. And remember, it's always more fun with friends. It's always more fun with friends. So bring to PHB the people that you want to lock arms with over the next year, and let's create this really awesome chapter of people we just want to surround ourselves with all year long. All right. The other event that's coming up on Thursday is we have a special perk that our president Avni gave us, which is being able to interact with the Santa Clara Chamber. So make sure that you have that on on your calendar as well. Come network on Thursday too. All right, with that said, we will see you all on Wednesday for our luncheon. And in the meantime, keep promoting your business and each other. Say it with me now, online, offline, all the time. Okay, bye everybody.